Hey there, it's Mitzi. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to share my June reading wrap-up and a few favorite things that happened or I found in June. Now, some of the favorite things I'm going to share I didn't find in June, but I've meant to share them with you, so I'm going to share those too. But the favorite things is just something I have started including because there are just things that happen during each month that I like to celebrate because I'm one of these simple people. I'm just about celebrating the simple living and just enjoying the things around you at the moment, because not all of us can travel the world and see all these exotic places, but we can enjoy the little things right in our own backyard. And so I like to share those with you just to encourage all of us, no matter where we are, to find those just little simple moments that bring us joy and make us happy. And so I just wanted to always share some of those with you along the way as well, and just the little things in life that make me happy. So I'm going to share first the books that I read in June that I haven't talked about, give you a little summary of what I've read in June, and then we'll talk about some of those favorite things. And I have my clipboard here to remind me, because when it comes to the end of the month, I try to jot things down as I go, but I always forget things if I don't have this clipboard with me. So for June, June kicked off 3 reading challenges for me. We have 2 that will be for June, July, and August. They're all summer long, and that is Big Book Summer, and that is hosted by Sue Jackson, where you read a book over 400 pages. So I started participating in that in June, and then I also started participating in Summer Book Bingo, which is hosted by Beautiful Minutia, and there are a lot of prompts on that to choose from, and I have already fulfilled several prompts, so I'll talk about that too. But I will leave links to both of those channels below in case you want to join in, because it's still the middle of the summer and there are lots of books that you can read for both of these reading challenges. And then also one that I wanted to participate in June but did not make it was June on the Range. Now this is hosted by I know Michael K. Vaughn is the main host. I think there's some others that host that with him. It already has passed, of course, because it was in June, and it's called June on the Range, where you read a Western. And last year was my first year participating, and I really enjoyed that. So I had actually found a book that I was going to share. I was going to read this one and share it, and I didn't get to it. I think this might be one of the first books written by Zane Grey. And last year I read some Louis L'Amour and Zane Grey, and I really loved what I read by Zane Grey. My son reads Westerns, and so I just borrowed some from his shelf. But I had picked this up for this challenge. It's called Betty Zane, and this was a real person. And so he wrote about, I guess that's where he gets his name, Zane Grey. But he wrote about this woman, Betty Zane, in this book. And I love the cover. It's beautiful. Sorry for the glare. It's one of those that has all these other options on the back to read. And I really wanted to get to this, but I just didn't. There was a lot going on in June. I went out of town. There were some other things happening here, and I just didn't read as much as I normally do in June. Because the summertime I do read a good bit, considering that we do, take a vacation usually in the summertime. But I only was able to read 9 books in June. Now you might think, wow, that's a lot of books. And it is. But a lot of them were short books. And some books I was finishing up that I had been reading. And I read a lot of books. So for me, it wasn't like one of my biggest reading months. But I am completely satisfied with whatever I get read. So I did have some good ones, and so we're going to talk about the ones that I haven't shared with you so far. But there are some others I have shared. I think I did like a mid-month wrap-up of what I've read, or a reading update a couple of times in June, so you can look back for those. But I did read 9. But these are the books that I have read that I haven't talked to you about. And the first one is one of the Nancy Drew books. I am hosting a read-along of Nancy Drew. We're calling it the Let's Read Nancy read-along. And this is number 9, We are reading through 10, so we have one more book to read, and we'll be finished with that reading challenge. This one was called The Sign of the Twisted Candles. This was originally published in 1933, but my copy is from 1968. What I love about our group is the conversations about the old books. I have Janet is in my group, and she has all the Nancy Drews pretty much, and so she'll show us leave pictures of the different covers, and she has the originals, and then she will read and compare and tell us the differences in the details, and I am amazed by it. And for this particular one, when she described the details that were left out of the updated 1968 version, it makes me want to read the 1933 version because the details sounded just great. I mean, I really enjoyed this book. This one, Nancy goes to an old inn. She and George and Bess visit this old inn, and the inn happens to be owned by a relative, a distant relative of the cousins. But there is a family feud among this family. And so it makes an awkward situation for Nancy with George and Bess. And that was a little different than what I was accustomed to. But it did make it interesting. So that's what's going on in this one. There is an orphan girl who is being mistreated by her foster parents. And the foster parents happen to be running the inn. And the relative is an elderly gentleman who is almost like a prisoner in this inn. And so there, of course, there's lots of mysteries. There was a lot of action in this. But I will say, when Janet was telling me about the ending, some of the specific details that were different in the 1933 version, it really made me interested in those. I have always said, now that I'm older, that I wanted to go back and read all of these because this was the edition I read from. But now that she's talked about that, I do want to read some of them and kind of compare the two because there was a lot left out. Apparently, there's about 30 more pages or so in those first books, and so there's a lot more details in those, and I do like those details because it makes you, I don't know, it's the details of the time period that help you kind of feel like you're there. And so anyway, I would like to read some of those. Let me know if you've read some of the older ones and compared them to these updated ones. I mean, this is from the 1960s. It's not that updated, but, you know, compared to the 1933, there are a lot of differences. So let me know if you've read and compared any of those editions. But this is number 9, and so we do have for July number 10, and I have really enjoyed the Let's Read Nancy little reading challenge that's been taking place over on Voxer, and thank you to all that have participated. The next book I read was A Memory Between Us by Sarah Sundin, and it is part of a series called Wings of Glory. This is number 2. In the first one, we have this family that's introduced, and this is one of the brothers. It's his story, and he is a pilot in World War II. And he is injured in a plane crash, and so he meets a young girl in the hospital, and they build a relationship from there. This one does deal with a serious traumatic event that happens in the young girl's life from the past, but it's not. There's no graphic details or description in the book. You just understand that that's what's happened. There's enough given to us to understand what's happened. And I really like the way that Sarah Sundin handled that situation in this book. If you follow my channel, you know how I feel about there's a fine line. I feel like there's a fine line in when, of course, these things happen and we have them in these books because, you know, different characters go through different things and there are traumatic events and horrible things that happen. But it's how the author handles that. And I appreciate this way because I feel like if you get too graphic with the traumatic events, it's almost as if you're celebrating those horrific things rather than celebrating the hero who has overcome those things. And so I like it when, yes, they can be on the page, but the way that the author handles it is not so graphic that it becomes the focal point of the book instead of the hero becoming the focal point, because I like to read about a hero who has triumphed over those traumatic things. I find encouragement and hope from that, and that's where the lessons learned from the human that is going through, or the main character who is going through these situations. So I do appreciate the way that Sarah Sundin handled that situation, but it is a traumatic event that happens in this girl's past and how she learns to overcome that. This is a Christian fiction. It's Christian historical fiction. And I think there's one more in this series, and I definitely will be reading it. And I also will continue reading Sarah Sundin because I really like the way that she tells a story. So I highly recommend the Wings of Glory series. Well, so far, because I've read the first two, and I've enjoyed those. Let me know if you've read any Sarah Sundin. I've asked that before. One of you, or a couple of you, told me about one of hers that I've picked up. So I want to read the third one, and so I need to pick it up for the Wings of Glory. And then I have that other one. I think it's Leaves in Paris or something like that. And I have it, I can see it over here I have it as an upcoming book for the summer. I don't know if I'll get to it, but I do hope that I will. Now, I did read this I use this for Summer Book Bingo, as well as Jane Reed's. She has a challenge that's going on all summer all year for Christian fiction. And so I know I used it for that. And then I used it for Summer Book Bingo. I think for the series prompt, I used this one. And this also fulfilled my first book for Big Book Summer, because this book is over 400. It's barely over 400, but it is. Let's see, that's a discussion. Let's see, it's 432 pages. So it does fit for Big Books, the Big Book Summer Challenge. Is that what it's called? I think that's what it's called. The Big Book Summer Challenge. I always want to say Big Books of Summer. But anyway, it does fulfill that challenge. So this is my first one. And I've already started my next book for Big Book Summer. And I think I have like 100 pages left in that one. So I know I'll get through 2. And then I have a whole stack over here. So maybe I can read at least 3 for that challenge. The next book I read was just on a whim. I was in the mood for Mary Stewart. And so I just went over to my shelf and picked up The Moon Spinners. This is The Moon Spinners by Mary Stewart. It's one of the vintage copies with her beautiful picture on the back. You know how much I love these. But The Moon Spinners was published in 1962. This one reminded me a lot of Mary Stewart's This Rough Magic. I think I read that last summer, and it felt a lot like that one because both of these books take place in the Greek islands, and it's very much a vacation type book. In this one, we have a girl who is on vacation, and she comes across, she's like going down this path, wandering down this path, and it's in the mountains, and she comes across this man who is like hiding out. And so then she refuses to leave, and she finds out more about him, and danger ensues. And there is this dangerous adventure that she becomes a part of quite accidentally, but there's a lot of mystery and page-turning adventure along the way. It's not a long one. It did not take me long at all to read this. I loved the descriptions of the setting in this one. The descriptions were great. It made me feel like I was in the middle of the action, the sights and sounds and smells. Mary Stewart's great at description, and she makes you feel like you are there in whatever setting that she has for us. And This Rough Magic, she does the same thing. So I really do recommend The Moon Spinners or This Rough Magic as a summer read. They are great reads for a vacation or travel. They're great for that. So I do recommend The Moon Spinners, and I had a great time reading this one. The next book I read was a children's classic that I should have read a long time ago, but I had this great copy and it was just calling to me from the shelf, and it's called Pollyanna by Eleanor H. Porter. This was published in 1913. It's a famous book. I know that you've heard of Pollyanna before. If you haven't heard of the book Pollyanna, I know that you have heard of the idea of a Pollyanna, and so that's what this book is. This is actually the first in a series. It's called the Glad Book series, and there are several Pollyanna books in that series, but they made a movie. Disney made a movie in 1960. There's an adaptation of Pollyanna, and then there's also a movie adaptation that was recently, I think it's like 2004. I think that's when the other movie adaptation came out. But I loved every minute of this book. It is just a wholesome children's classic, and I just loved it. I know that it can feel a little maybe sugary sweet, and sometimes I don't like that, but I loved this one. It reminded me a little bit of Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm, but I enjoyed this one more than Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm. This was just, she was just so positive, and she played the glad game, which encouraged everyone around her, and she changed the lives of everyone around her for the good, and that's what I loved about it. It was just a great story that as a little girl I would have loved reading. And so I just enjoyed every minute of this book, and so now I want to read more in the Glad Book series because I loved it so much. And I think that this week I'm going to try to find the two movie adaptations, the 1961 as well as the 2004. So let me know in the comments if you've read this book, because I know it's a famous, well-known children's classic, but like me, I had never read it. So let me know if you've read it and your thoughts, and also if you have seen maybe you watched it a long time ago, the Disney adaptation, or if you've seen the more recent adaptation of Pollyanna. Let me know that too, because I do plan on, now that I've read it and I loved it so much, watching at least one of those movie adaptations. Okay, so now on to some favorite things. For the month of June, my favorite thing was my trip to Charlotte, North Carolina, which is not that far from me, but I was able to visit some gardens, and I've already shared the garden tours with you as well as some book shopping, and I'll try to remember to leave a link to some of those videos in case you're interested. But that was the highlight of the month of June for me, because we just had a great time. My husband and I went for several days, and we had a great time touring those gardens. And so when we went to those gardens, I wanted to mention this too. I don't normally share these kind of things because I'm not a fashion expert or anything, but I wore this dress. I picked up a dress because I knew it was going to be hot, and I don't wear a lot of dresses, but in the summertime it's just so humid and hot. You need something that's cooler. So I picked up a dress on Amazon that I loved, and so I thought I would share it because it's a great summer dress, and I think it comes in many colors. And I have it over here. Hang on just a second. So I thought I would share it with you, but this is the dress. I don't know if you can see. It has a little collar, and it's made out of like a chiffon, and it's layered, has a little liner under it. But I like the buttons because I am a button-down girl. It has a little tie here, but it really doesn't, it's an elastic waist, and it has these little bows on it. And I just loved wearing this because it's so lightweight. Now, I am 5'4". When I go to the doctor, he says I'm more 5'3", but I say I'm 5'4". I think I'm 5'4", and it comes at my knees, just above my knees. So for me, it wasn't too short. But if you're tall, it might be a little shorter on you. So, it just depends on how tall you are. I'm an average, for me, I think that's an average height. And I have trouble finding the right lengths and things because I'm right at that place where sometimes I'll buy in the petite section and sometimes I won't because of the length of pants and things. But this was just the right length for a summer dress in a garden, and I just loved it. It was just very cool and comfortable. And so but it's dressy too, so you could dress it up with some heels if you wanted to, or wear sandals like I did for our tour in the garden. So I just thought I would share that because I think it comes in a lot of colors. I have gotten to where I wear a lot of navy blue. I love black, but the older I get, the less I need to wear so much black. So I've kind of transitioned to navy blue as my new black because, you know, it's a little more color. But anyway, I do like dark colors, you know, because of my dark hair. So anyway, I just thought I would share that. Again, I am not a fashion expert. I cannot help you in that department. But I found it to be it wasn't expensive at all, and it was very comfortable. So I'll leave a link to that in case you're interested in seeing that. And then also, when I was thinking about that, speaking of fashion, this is going to show you why I don't share fashion, because these little, I wear these all the time, y'all. These are little flip-flops, and right now they're dirty. I should have cleaned them up. But these are called Hummingbirds, I think is what they're called. And I get these off of Amazon too. But they come in every color. And I keep these little flip-flops. I wear them all year long because it doesn't get that cold here. And so much so that my foot looks like this because the sun has made a permanent flip-flop on the top of my foot. But I love these just to have at each doorway because I'm in and out of the house so much and I don't want to track in, you know. So I have those at each door, and then especially in the spring and summer because of, you know, my garden and my plants and everything, I keep those there so that when I come back in, I can take them off at the door and just go around the house with no shoes, because that's just how I am. And so I just thought I would share these because I love these, and you can get them in all different colors, and I keep them everywhere, and I go through these little flip-flops. And then one other thing, now the flip-flops is nothing new, the dress was new, but when I pulled out the flip-flops I thought, well, I'm going to tell them about those other shoes too, because I get compliments on these little shoes all the time. I am a huge loafers fan. I love black pointed toe loafers, and I wear them all the time, and I think I've mentioned that before. But you know, in the spring and summer I don't wear those as much because they don't really go with a lot of the things I'm wearing. That's more fall winter. Well, I have found this company, and they're called, I think it's Vivaia, Vivaia, and they started making shoes out of recycled plastic. I know that sounds weird, but I liked them because they had pointed toe version. Now they have the round toe. I have a very narrow foot, so the pointed toe works best for me, and I just like the look of a pointed toe. I think it makes an outfit look a little more expensive, I guess, or something. And I wear pointed toe pumps on Sundays. That's just my shoe, my go-to. But these are a pair that I bought. I think I bought these last year. And they have held up so well because you can walk in the ocean in these shoes, and you can do anything you want to, and then you throw them in the washing machine and they come out looking just like this. I have a pink pair just like this because I like the little bow on them so much, and I just love wearing these little shoes. And so I slip these on. They're very comfortable. I've gotten to where the older I get, I'm, you know, more into comfort than those pumps and things. And so I just thought I would mention that. I'm not affiliated with them or anything, but I'll leave a link in case you're interested in those. And I don't spend a lot of money on shoes, but I did pay a little bit more for those. But I have bought 3 pair of those since because they wash. I mean, you can put them in the washing machine, and they have held up so well. So I think 3 years ago I bought my first pair. Last year I bought those, and then this year I bought another pair which has a little kitten heel on it. So I am really loving those shoes. And again, they're out of recycled plastic, which is a good thing too, to recycle our plastic. And they wash so well, and they keep like brand new. So I thought I would mention that because that is a favorite thing that I use all during, especially those are more spring and summer looking, and I wear them all year long. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is the, let me mention something else. I see it down here. I have this little cup, and I don't know if I've ever shared this, but my son gave me it's from Paula Deen, if you know the Southern chef lady, Paula Deen. This is a mug that my son gave me, and on the front is this little hen with her chicks. I don't know if you can see that because there's a glare. Inside it's yellow. And on the other side, it says, rise and shine, y'all. And I love this mug. I drink out of this mug all the time. And I smile because my oldest son gave it to me. But I just love that little mug. I saw it sitting here. So that's a favorite thing too. Not from June, but it's a favorite thing. But the other thing that is also a favorite is the Birds and Blooms Hooked on Hummingbirds. This is the latest issue in the Birds and Blooms, and it has some very beautiful, I mean, look at that hummingbird. Is that not gorgeous? Very beautiful pictures of hummingbirds throughout this, as well as how to attract hummingbirds and what flowers attract them, how to take care of your hummingbird feeders, and all of those things. So this has been one that I have kept outside in the mornings when I'm reading, to read just an article a day. And enjoying just the beautiful illustrations, not illustrations, the beautiful photographs of the hummingbirds in this issue. So those are the books I read in June, as well as some favorite things. Let me know what you're reading right now. Is your July off to a great reading start? Let me know that too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.